able to take part in this celebration in St. Louis on Human Rights Day. Ever since the Declaration of Human Rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, was passed in Paris in 1948 on December the 10th, we have fostered the observance of this day not only in the United States but throughout the world. The object is to make people everywhere conscious of the importance of human rights and freedom.
She was a lady who transformed the role of First Lady and became a global champion for human rights and equality. Her story still has an impact on the world today. In 1905, she married her distant cousin Franklin D. Roosevelt, stepping into a public life that would later demand her resilience and courage.
Born in 1884 into a wealthy New York family, Eleanor Roosevelt faced challenges that shaped her compassionate worldview. Losing both parents by age 10, she grew up shy and unsure of herself. But a transformative education in England, under the mentorship of a progressive headmistress, ignited her sense of purpose.
We stand today at the threshold of a great event, both in the life of the United Nations and in the life of mankind. This Universal Declaration of Human Rights may well become the international Magna Carta of all men everywhere. We hope its proclamation by the General Assembly will be an event comparable to the proclamation of the Declaration of the Rights of Man by the French people in 1789, the adoption of the Bill of Rights by the people of the United States, and the adoption of comparable declarations at different times in other countries.
When Franklin D. Roosevelt became president in 1933, him and Eleanor knew that they wanted to make a big change in how things were done. Instead of hosting tea parties, Eleanor traveled the country listening to the struggles of ordinary Americans during the Great Depression. She advocated for workers, African Americans, and women, using her voice to push for change. She held her own press conferences, often only inviting female reporters, to ensure women stayed in the newsroom at a time when their opportunities were limited.
After Franklin's death in 1945, Eleanor's influence only grew. President Harry Truman appointed her as a delegate to the United Nations, where she became the chair of the Human Rights Commission. In 1948, she was instrumental in drafting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a document that ensured dignity and equality for all people worldwide.
Reason, all over the world, we've encouraged the associations for the United Nations to observe a whole week before United Nations Day comes around to explain United Nations and what goes on in that organization. And when we come to the celebration for human rights, we try to particularly have people study the Declaration so that they will really understand what were considered to be if we turn away from the needs of others, we align ourselves with those forces which are bringing about this suffering and which we must eventually try to defeat. Remember, in this country, the gift must be based on your ability to give. Nobody but you can be the judge of what you are able to do, but let it be more than you have before thought you could give to others.
Eleanor Roosevelt left a lasting legacy as a trailblazing advocate for human rights, social justice, and women's empowerment. As First Lady of the U.S. from 1933 to 1945, she redefined the role by actively engaging in political and social issues. This is a photo of Eleanor Roosevelt standing next to a display made for her, showing how much she impacted women's voting rights.
A woman will be a major party's nominee.
It's only in the past couple of generations that women have emerged as a force at political conventions.
We've reached a milestone.
Women's prominence began to emerge in 1940. The convention was pretty raucous. President Roosevelt needed somebody who could essentially speak to the delegates and quiet them down, and Eleanor Roosevelt turned out to be that person.
All human beings. That small change has had a tremendous impact. Women will be included everywhere. All human beings, men and women and children, have these rights.
It says that these rights of the people are not because you are from some geographical region, because you have from some culture or some religion. It's just because we are human beings, just because we exist, that we are entitled to those rights.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." Her dream was a world of equality and justice, and she spent her life making it a reality.
Eleanor Roosevelt's legacy reminds us that each of us has the power to make a difference. Eleanor Roosevelt played a crucial role in influencing Franklin D. Roosevelt's decisions on human rights during his presidency, 1933 through 1945. As a staunch advocate for social justice, she pushed her husband to take stronger stances on civil rights, labor rights, and the aid for the disadvantaged. While Franklin D. Roosevelt focused on leading the nation through the Great Depression and World War II, implementing policies like the New Deal to provide economic relief, Eleanor worked tirelessly to ensure these efforts also addressed racial and gender inequalities. She urged him to support anti-lynching legislation, although the political pressures prevented him from fully endorsing it, and she played a key role in advocating for the inclusion of women and African Americans in all of the New Deal programs. Her influence helped shape policies like the executive order, which banned discrimination in the defense industry. While Franklin's presidency laid the groundwork for modern human rights advancements, Eleanor's persistent advocacy ensured that social justice remained a part of the national conversation, setting the stage for future civil rights progress.
These things must be well understood because even though you accept treaties and countries ratify those treaties, the real change which must give to people throughout the world their human rights must come about in the hearts of people. We must want our fellow human beings to have rights and freedoms which give them dignity and which will give them a sense that they are human beings that can walk the earth with their heads high and look all men in the face. If we observe these rights for ourselves and for others, I think we will find that it is easier in the world to build peace, because war destroys all human rights and freedoms. So in fighting for those, we fight for peace.